Okay, well, we've led in the waiting room. So, hello, everyone. Tonight we have the amazing Colleen Cass. She's an SOJC alumni. She's currently a digital strategist at M Booth. She also helped run The Flock, which many of us know and love already. And she's going to talk to us today about brand voice on social. So, thank you so much, Colleen.
Thanks, Mo. Hi, everyone. My name is Colleen, and here's a little bit about me. I'm currently a digital strategist at M Booth. My clients include Google Workspace, so like Google Docs, Gmail, Google Civics, and Android Enterprise. Previous clients I've had include Facebook Watch, HEADCOUNT, Marriott, Carhartt, Master and Dynamic. My hobbies include fostering dogs, sketch and improv, reading, podcasts, and crocheting. So a little bit about how I got to M Booth, from a student to where I am now. When I was a student, I was on ad team with the gorgeous Emma Pindell. And I applied to every internship possible in New York. I knew I wanted to be in New York. I had spent the summer in LA and hated it. So I was ready for a change. I sent a ton of emails out. I was obsessed with Carrot, which was Vice's creative agency, and was like stalking everyone there and just sending really like short, concise emails. And then I got an internship at an agency called MRY. And so fun fact, Publicis, who owns MRY, that summer, they didn't hire any interns after their program, except for Emma. So good job, Pindell. And then after that, I ended up at Ace Content, which is under Anomaly. It is their content studio. And there, my main client was Facebook Watch, where I worked on entertainment clients as an associate strategist. And then, like a year and a half, I was kind of burnt out at Anomaly, looking for something different. I had everyone I could possibly think of look at all my like resumes, website, all that. And I actually reached out to someone who worked at or who went to Oregon, who worked at M Booth, and said, "Hey, I saw that there's like a associate digital strategist role. What's up?" And she actually got sometimes in companies you'll get referral bonuses, and that's what happened there. So that was kind of nice. That all worked out. So here's a bit about what a digital strategist does. It's kind of a vague term, I would say. It's more copywriting than you think it is, and account management, knowing when to be nice to a client and shut up and smile, and how to nicely tell them that their idea is really bad. Saying let's circle back to that is like and then communicating in the digital space. So a digital strategist needs to know what TikTok is, why Cinnamon Toast is trending, why Will Smith was on Red Table Talk. A digital strategist is someone who is very plugged in to digital culture. And a lot of it is silly, but a lot of it is knowing the digital space well enough to not make your client look like an idiot. And know, hey, we're not posting today because something is happening in the news that we shouldn't be a part of. Or, hey, this meme is really popular. It totally makes sense for our brand. Let's jump on it and get a ton of engagement, get people talking about it. So that's a big part of being a digital strategist. So I included like a couple case studies. This one is HEADCOUNT. They register voters at like festivals, all across the world or country. And the problem was, how do you get youth voters to vote in the 2018 midterms? And that's a really hard problem. I did a lot of research, and young people don't vote was the main research. And a lot of people weren't really paying attention to youth voters because that data was there. So we kind of came up with this idea. I think, I can't remember the exact percentage, but there were so many kids who had turned 18 since Donald Trump was elected, since 2016. So we wanted to invite them in to having a voice and owning that space. So we actually worked with a bunch of political influencers. We worked with kids who were affected by the Parkland shooting. And we kind of came up with this campaign, The Future is Voting. And I'll play the clip. Let me know if you guys can hear it. Can you hear it?
No, I don't think we can hear it.
That's okay.
It's a little cool though.
It's super inspirational. Like, whew, best ad ever. But it was cool because HEADCOUNT tripled their previous highs for election registrations, and we did Giphy stickers. We did, there was an ad on a boat, like all this random stuff. It was really fun. Oh, that's not what I wanted. And then another more fun case study I have is like kind of a behind the scenes example of what goes into brand Twitter. The space of brand Twitter is more complicated than it should be. A lot of times, if you're a brand and you have a good idea for something to say on Twitter, legal will tell you no. Except if you're like Steakums, that's a really good Twitter account to follow if you want like rogue stuff. I think the biggest thing with brand Twitter is you never want to sound out of touch. That's like the biggest thing that they will eat you alive for. So our goal, especially with Google Workspace, which incorporates Google Docs, Gmail, blah, 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 our goal is to differentiate from Microsoft, basically. And we are trying to look for ways to do that on a larger scale and on a smaller scale. So using brand Twitter, this is like an example of like Microsoft talking about Control S and like them being funny. And then Google Docs being like, what's Control S? Because they don't have it. It automatically saves. And so it's kind of fun to just like be able to bully people a little bit. And I think it's fun. And it actually was our most engaged tweet. I have a running joke that I think it would be very fun to like just like beat the crap out of Clippy somehow for like Google Docs. I don't know how it would come to life, but if you see it one day, that's my idea. So I wanted to talk a little bit about developing a brand voice and what that kind of means. So there's like two really big big parts of it. Identifying your audience, who they are, what they're into, what's their language, how do they speak? And then how does your brand talk? Is your brand aiming to get them to click something, to buy something? Are there any brand guidelines like the CEO doesn't like dolphins, so never say anything about dolphins? You know, is there a celebrity that sounds like your voice? Yes, Chelsea Peretti is our voice. So those are like really good questions to ask when you're thinking about that. So if we look at the duck, I kind of answered like the questions here about who the audience is, college students, alums, prospective students, and the media they consume. So sports, unfortunately Barstool, I don't know. I think that's still a thing. TikTok, and what their language is. The language is Autzen, talking about Animal House, cheesy grillers, inside knowledge without alienating anyone. So I kind of built out this brand voice practice that's really helpful. It's called We Are, We Are Not, and you'll see it sometimes in brand decks. I think it's super helpful when considering how you want your brand to talk and really considering what tone you want to go into it. So if you look at the duck, we are playful, but we're not crude. We'll pull pranks, but we're not Jake Paul. We are down for a good time, but not drunk. Clever, but not boastful. Mischievous, but not mean. Sporty, but not destructive. And this kind of is really helpful to emphasize what pillars you want to hit and you want to stay away from when creating any kind of content for a brand. And then just like resources I used when I was a student. I went to the writing center a lot. I went to talks like these a lot. Emailing people again if they don't respond in 2 weeks, like people are just busy. It happens. And then a couple books if you're like more interested in it, like social media and the 10 arguments for deleting your social media, and the defining decade. Also a really good newsletter is Big Spaceship's Internet Brunch, and Prozac, because your mental health matters and advertising is such bullshit that like you really should take care of your mental health first. Also, support from my parents. That's how I was able to move to New York. It really helped me when I was starting out, and not everyone has that. I'm very grateful for that. And then I have this share quote that I actually have on a Post-it note near my desk. If it doesn't matter in 5 years, it doesn't matter. I think that's it for me. Cool. That was it. Off to you guys if you have any questions.
That was amazing. Thank you so much. First of all, deck design, are you sure you aren't also an art director? That was beautiful.
I stole it. It's a template.
Well, it's still very, very cool. So thank you for that huge round of applause. Does anyone have any questions before Miles and I get into some of ours? I'm going to give one more second of silence before I just take over.
I have like a random one that kind of came to me. When it comes to being a digital strategist, like every time you look at social media, it's like what's trending, what's cool. Do you find yourself that like you can't look at social media casually anymore, like you can't enjoy it? Or like, are there ways for you to still kind of turn that brain off and like just scroll on TikTok to scroll?
That's an interesting question. I think that oh gosh, I think I do it for fun and for work. I think I definitely don't have healthy boundaries with social media, and I want to work on them. But even when I find myself on Twitter for fun, I'll see someone tweeting about Gmail and I'll be like, oh, that would be a good retweet plus comment. So it does kind of take the fun out of it. But also social media can get not fun in general.
Thanks.
Wow, that definitely makes a lot of sense. Oh, Jennifer has a question in the chat as well. So going off of that question, what boundaries do you have with social media as work and as personal enjoyment?
That is a really good question. Oh boy. I recently locked my Twitter so that work people can't see it. If you want to follow me, I'm a great follow at Colleen Colleen Cass, I think. One thing I've done with Instagram is I have consciously posted less. I think I've come to the conclusion that I am not a brand. I'm a person. And so my social media does not need to be a brand because that's not what I want it to be. So, yeah.
That actually got us right into a question that we had for you, which was, you talked a lot about brand voice. How does that go into your own personal branding, or do you see crossover in how people can brand themselves or how they do, and then versus how companies do?
I don't think I'm the right person to talk to about self-branding. I think I might have like tried it when I was younger, but again, it brought me to the realization that I'm a person, not a brand. And I think a lot of, strategists, copywriters, creatives try to humanize brands. And I think it's, definitely pull at the heartstrings, all that. But brands aren't humans and humans aren't brands. And I think that's really important to keep in mind. I understand like applying to internships, you want to be the brand of the best intern, right? I've had interns who their Instagram is beautiful. And then they kind of get into the job and it's not really what they expected. Like it's, hard work. It's not all like, oh, let's have drinks after work. It's boring some days,
I got a question. Sorry, my voice is a little gone, but like the internet, I feel like is always changing, and it's like tweeting as like a brand or something. It's like, how do you find the line between like a relevant tweet and something that can like stand on its own after like a trend or something goes away?
Oh God, that's hard. A really good example of this was when the Bernie meme went around. That was like huge, and that it went on for too long. And I feel like the second brands start using something is when it's no longer like cool. So it's kind of, how do you tell when it's done? When people who aren't funny get a hold of it. Yeah.
That's such a great way to put it.
She's basically saying when me or Emma starts to adopt that internet joke, it's no longer good.
Oh my God.
Well, I follow you both on Twitter, so I'm pretty sure you guys are funny, but that is very fair.
Don't encourage them.
Well, that actually brought up another question I had for you, which was when you were talking about some of your interns maybe not understanding what the actual day-to-day of the role was going to be. What are some misconceptions you've seen about your work that you kind of see yourself over and over again having to explain to maybe interns or new hires that this is what the job's actually like?
That's a good question. Sometimes when you get an internship, there's going to be a lot of time where you don't have anything to do, and you don't know what you should be doing because the people above you have so much on their plate that they don't have time to talk to you about everything. So I think there is some, when you first start on your career, like wanting to be like, yeah, I worked so late. And it's like, sometimes you don't have work to be like working on because big brands don't want someone so fresh working on their stuff. And that's not a diss like to you, that's a diss to like years of systemic bullshit. And I think like one of the misconceptions is interns will come into something and say, oh, working in advertising is my passion. And I think a lot of times work isn't really a passion. it's something you do to make money. And it's sometimes fun, and it's a lot of times not. I had to, I'm trying to think of like a good example of, I have a client that is insanely difficult. We gave her a presentation that they asked for. And then when we were presenting it, they asked, "Why are you presenting this to me?" Sometimes work is just like high school, and you have the same stuff. I do not know if that was hopeful, inspirational, or depressing.
It was all of the above for me, so I think it got the whole trifecta.
That's my brand.
I love it. Perfect. Does anyone else have any questions before Miles and I keep hopping in? I don't want to talk over anyone.
I have one question. So when you're looking at like trends to follow, or like trends like to follow for your client / brand, like how do you decide which trend is going to be the best to fit the image that your client's trying to achieve?
Yeah, definitely. So a lot of it is starting with the brand voice, and what we've already established is the brand voice. And a lot of times you'll get like a brand playbook and be asked to refer to that and the language and the tone of that. A good example is I worked on Facebook Watch. We launched all these original shows for Facebook. And one of the shows was called 5 Points. It was like a teen drama. And at the time, 2018-ish, Finstas were really cool. This was before Instagram had close stories. So we created a Finsta for the show because it was like kind of high school teenagers. And it kind of had that vibe of like secret drama. But then if you look at another show we had, Loosely Exactly Nicole, which was Nicole, Real Bros of Simi Valley. Peter Gilroy, I've had a crush on that man for years. Anyway, if you look at Loosely Exactly Nicole, which was Nicole Byer's scripted show, Nicole's more like fun, like let's go. She's not really having a Finstagram for any secrets. So that trend wouldn't make sense for her brand. Her brand would be more like, I don't even think Instagram stories were that big at the time, but it would probably be more like we made a casting reel for her of her doing different jobs. And I was like, you can put Nicole Byer anywhere. Yeah, so it's really going back to the brand voice.
Thank you.
I have a question. What do you do on the days when the creativity just isn't flowing and you have a project you need to get done and you have to like reset yourself? What's your way of getting around that block?
So I have a good answer for when we're in the office. If I have a creative meeting, especially when it's like raining out and crappy, I'll put a bunch of candy in my pockets and sit down and then throw, this is very serious, I throw the candy at everyone. This is like for an internal thing, not with clients, to kind of like break the tension. And I think it's all about breaking the tension and remembering that it is not that serious. Tweets aren't going to save lives. Social isn't going to save a life. Yeah, I wish I could throw a candy at clients. But in terms of like maybe a routine, going for a walk really helps. I did a thing in quarantine for a while where I was listening to all the Harry Potter audiobooks and just taking a walk. And also, like, there's a couple accounts that I get inspiration from, particularly brand. I would look at like Moon Pies on Twitter, Steakums, Nihilist Arby's is very funny. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
I have a question about when you said like the best thing to do is reach out to people on LinkedIn. Once you get that like initial connection, are you supposed to reach out like every once in a while? Like how do you kind of break that weirdness to be like, hi, I'm here again, like, and then ask what you need from someone?
Yeah, totally. That it's hard. I think if you lay it out, like if someone asks for a phone call, and I'll like give them a phone call and answer their questions. The thing is I can't give anyone an internship. I wish I could. The only thing I can ever do is send someone's resume to a HR person, and then that's over. But it's important to make those connections on LinkedIn so that you can remember, like, oh, didn't someone like email me and say that they really liked, I don't know, what they really liked our latest campaign for Valentine's Day on Google Workspace. Oh, like we need someone who's interested in doing more of those campaigns. So I would say have some idea of what their work is, have a clear question, and a lot of times they won't be able to help you, but they have definitely been in your shoes before. And if they're not empathetic to that, they're not worth your time anyway.
Thank you.
Well, kind of going back to something from earlier on in your presentation, you had talked about resources during school, but kind of in a different way. What resources do you use to stay up to date on things besides social media right now? Like, are there any different websites you're also kind of keeping track of?
I read like Vox every day. There's a podcast I listen to called What a Day, and it's like a quick 20-minute recap of the news. I listen to a lot of culture podcasts. Keep It with Ira Madison is really good. Las Culturistas with Bowen Yang and Matt Rogers. I mean, a lot of times with trends, also trust your gut. When I was working on Instagram a lot, I made like a separate Instagram account where I just followed a ton of influencers and brands. And I would check that and see like what they were doing. I'm trying to think if I have any other advice for that. Also, I mean, I think being an interesting person is the best way to know what's trending and what's going on, because interesting people are people who are always asking questions and always wanting to know more. Today my supervisor and we were having a conversation about how there was an article in the New Yorker about how there's a theory that humans have lost their sense of navigation, because if you look at animals have a very good sense of navigation, but because we've relied on like Google Maps so much, we've actually lost touch with that sense of navigation. So maybe navigation is going to be a trend. I don't know.
As someone who like, oh my God, my voice just cracked. That was embarrassing. As someone who like spends all day on like social media and like following the trends, do you have any like weird like tips or tricks for just like normal people using social media or like anything like that?
Like to get followers?
Not necessarily, just kind of like just like how to like interact with the people you already are interacting with, not necessarily to gain followers.
No one's ever going to be mad if you're too enthusiastic about them. Like support, like it never hurts to support your friends on Instagram or even Twitter. I think there's a misconception that it's embarrassing to be like a simp. And I think that is a very negative thing. And I think that you should champion the people in your life as much as possible.
I would just add on, Colleen, to something you said earlier about like we're people, we're not brands. You don't need to have like when you're navigating social media and deciding what to post, don't let is this on brand for me, or is this the person I'm trying to portray to the world, like take over too much, because people are going to be much more interested in just like what you actually think about things. So don't become a caricature of yourself.
Hell yeah, Maggie.
Caricature yourself is such a great way to put it. I'm definitely gonna remember that. I feel like that's a lot of what we see in our friends as they're doing personal branding and whatnot, or trying to.
And I mean, that's okay. Like I did that. It's part of the process to figure out, because I think our generation doesn't have the luxury of maturing in a private space anymore. We are discovering ourselves very publicly in different avenues, and unfortunately, it's going to be in a server for the rest of your life, which sucks. But we got to go through the embarrassing crap.
Totally, and I've got plenty of that, but I'm so glad the internet cannot see still. Well, speaking of the internet and all that still, one big thing that I'm sure you remember from your time here was Deb and how much she preaches empathy and how much we all kind of really try to take that with us as we go on. Have you been able to kind of involve empathy when you're thinking about brands? Is that something you consider with when you're thinking about like what message they want to put out?
Yeah, definitely. That's a really good question. It is very difficult with big brands to have any sort of empathetic message at all. A lot of times, as a brand, you don't want your empathetic message to come from you, especially in the tech world. You want it to come from your leadership. So, like, if you look at Google, a lot of their political statements will come from their CEO, Sundar Pichai, and like maybe our brand will share it. But if you look at like HEADCOUNT, empathy is in their DNA. Like that is kind of the reason they're a thing. And working on HEADCOUNT was it was interesting because we couldn't we made these pins that were like equality, and we couldn't make a pin that said women's rights because HEADCOUNT is considered an impartial organization, and they could lose their funding if they put out something that was very heavily leftist or rightist, right? And I mean, the world makes up those stupid arbitrary rules that take away empathy from organizations. And I think you just have to do your best. And I think empathy starts with you being empathetic to the humans around you before you're empathetic for brands.
The amount of one-liner wisdoms that I'm just etching into my brain as you say them, that was brilliant.
I have another like two-parter for you. I feel like traditionally brands just use like Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, but like, what do you think about like TikTok, and like, what do you think is like a potential upside of a brand using TikTok? And then my second part is, what is your favorite social media platform?
My favorite social media platform is probably Reddit. I used it when I was like a teen, and I don't go on it every day, but I come back to it a lot because I think it's such a fascinating platform for different people. And if you're looking in the right place, you will find very sweet in human interactions. But also I pulled up Reddit today and there was like a video that was like something about why women's soccer should be paid less than men's soccer. And I was like, not today. But how brands use TikToks and emerging platforms. So it's actually really interesting. It's seen as a huge risk for any brand to take on a new platform because it's a lot of money going to it if you want to do it right. And, you know, look at Quibi. There's no guarantee that it's going to result in anything if you put in all that money. I mean, even Facebook Watch, Facebook just threw a ton of money at it, but it was such a strange, miscombobulated effort that came from the top of Facebook that it kind of, it's still going, but more in niche communities. But with TikTok, I think it is a really good example of looking at how people are using it and mirroring that and understanding, you know, back to brand voice. Does the brand voice of TikTok match my brand's voice? If you look at the duck, I could totally see the duck on TikTok. I'm surprised is it already on there? Yeah, that makes sense for them. For something like Gmail, probably not. Like, unless, and if you have a brand like that, like Gmail, that is more like businessy, if we wanted to go on TikTok, we would probably do it through an influencer program. So we would probably align with an influencer and have them do a day in the life video. So they could be like, here's my morning coffee. Oh, gotta check my emails. I love labeling things in Gmail. Yeah.
So I had a question kind of backtracking a little bit. I feel like recently there's been a really big push on Instagram for like personal accounts to be more casual. And I was curious if you've seen like a similar trend for brands and kind of what that would look like.
Yeah. It's actually funny. I think that I have a theory that we are currently in a resurgence of brand Twitter because Donald Trump is no longer on Twitter. I've noticed that brands have increased their playfulness since that ban. And I think it's like if you look back in 2013 and like early brand Twitter, wasn't sure what their legs were, why they should even be talking to someone, what their cadence is. And I think it takes a while to figure it out. And a lot of times you're gonna have a lot of hits and misses. And sometimes you're gonna have a tweet that you're like, I have no idea why that did well. Also you'll get trolls. We have this one troll, it's called Killed by Google, and we think it's an ex-Googler who comments on everything. And just like, it's very strange. Yeah, did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. I'm just curious, what kind of things does ex-Google like to say to you guys?
Okay, so this is fucking insane. This dude, this person, Google Workspace used to be G Suite. It went through a rebrand. And we helped with the rebrand. So we like moved everything to the new Twitter and everything. But it was under a code name for a while. So we didn't really say Google Workspace out loud that much because like we weren't allowed to. And one thing that we should have done is we should have claimed the Twitter handle Google Workplace, and we didn't, but Killed by Google did. This ex-Googler claimed it, and then like was like commenting on everything, trying to get people to follow it. Twitter had it removed. They comment just what ? On a lot of our posts, which is demeaning. But not like, they're not insulting my character, which I appreciate.
Not the worst comment you could get.
I had a manager who she worked for a pasta sauce and was doing their Twitter. This was like back in 2014. I wish I could remember what the name of the pasta sauce is. But this was when Gawker was a thing, and Gawker wrote an article that was like, whoever runs the Twitter for Ragu, whoever runs the Twitter for Ragu should kill themselves or something like that. And it was like all these like very sad, lonely tweets that was like puns, like, let's talk about pasta. And like no one was responding to that because it's a brand. Oh gosh. I can't believe she came back from that. She is now the social media strategist at Lady Foot Locker. So she's fine.
Have you ever tweeted anything for a brand like that you meant to send to your own Twitter, or like are they logged in on your phone, or like how does that work?
Yeah, so it is logged in on my phone. No, I would get fired. Like I've made mistakes on tweets, like a spelling error or like the wrong asset, and I just delete it before anyone knows. Oh God. Oh, okay. I hate this story. 2 months in to me working there, my manager took a month-long vacation to Japan, and I was in charge. I put out like a regular tweet about Google Calendar from Google Workspace and G Suite at the time. And an hour later, Google Calendar was down. It happens. And then The Verge, the headline was Google Calendar goes down and after tweeting about how great it is. That one hurt. Yeah, but I mean, I feel like it's kind of like one of those things, like, okay, you don't fuck with like the brand on your phone or anything like that. Like, yeah, but I do think like all the time about like, what if I just like tweeted like it should have been Bernie who won the election, or like from Sundar, you know, I don't know. Maybe one day I'll just fucking lose it.
I would have retweeted that. That would have been a wild moment. You probably would have broken the internet real fast there.
The most famous incident of that is Delta, the airplane. This might have been like 2014, 2013. Someone like asked Delta a question and they responded with a picture of a woman pleasuring herself with an airplane, like a toy airplane. So, you know, the bar's pretty low. High? Depends on how you look at it.
Well, on that note, that was so amazing. Thank you. I know we're getting close to the end of our time, so I want to open it up to any other questions people have. I'll awkwardly sit here for a sec just in case someone has a burning
I
question.
have a question.
Oh, amazing.
So, you mentioned earlier that one of the best things you can be to be good at social media is an interesting person. What are things that you do that are beyond social media or anywhere near touching work stuff that make you, like, not even that you do them for your job, but like by just virtue of you doing them, do make you better at your job?
For reference, Emma and I used to live together, and she is my best friend. So she already knows the answer to this. I have hobbies, and I like learning about new things, and being annoying about the new things I learn about. When I first moved to New York, one of the things I did was take an improv class, and that actually gave me a ton of friends here. Not a ton, but gave me like 3 pretty good friends. And because I think when you move to a new city, it is very hard to make friends. And a lot of times, if you're hanging out with like the same friends from college, you don't feel like you're growing as a person. You feel like you're kind of talking about the same awesome stuff you did 2 years ago, which, you know, there's nothing wrong with. But I think, you know, one thing before the pandemic that Emma and I did a lot was like going to weird talks and shows and really taking advantage of where we were. And it hasn't always worked out for us. I'm trying to think of like weird shit. There's a lot. But get really good at knowing what you like.
The idea of growing up and going to a city seems so scary. So it's awesome to watch people like you guys manage it, you know, and kill it at that. So thank you for being an example for us all. And
yeah, I mean, again, my parents helped me out financially. It's a very hard thing to do. You know, I think people glorify the hustle a lot, and without talking about the realities of it can be super lonely. You're broke for a long time, even if you have parental help. But it feels nice to make your own choices.
I'm ready to be broke, but very free. That'll be amazing. Do you have any advice for all of us? I know we have people of honestly all years on this call. So just any advice in general for opportunities that like you took advantage of in the SOJC, anything else you wish you would have?
One thing I've thought about a lot is I wished I minored in something more interesting than business. I kind of minored in it to make my mom happy. And I thought that it would give me some great knowledge, and it really didn't. I hated it. And I wish that I minored in like theater or Spanish, took a language. I think that's, and if you're a senior and you already have a minor, try to take a class that's like, what the hell? Like, I think Emma took a class on dinosaurs. I took a class on like the Black Panther Party. I can't remember what it was called, but don't take a class because it's an easy A. Like, grades don't matter. Take a class because you want to take that class. Unless it's math, like I get that you have to take that.
Since we're nearing the end here, if anyone wanted to reach out to you, like, what would the best way to do that be?
Yeah, definitely. I can ping my email in the chat. Also, probably LinkedIn is good. I'm on Twitter too much. Yeah, here, I'll ping it.
On my way to follow Twitter right now. I'm ready for the content.
It's locked right now, but I'll let you guys in.
Amazing. Well, if no one else has any other questions, we'll let everyone get back to their night. But thank you so much for coming in. That was amazing. And Emma and Maggie, thank you guys for keep coming back. We love it. It makes us so happy. So thank you. And yeah, we'll be back hopefully next week, or yes, next week actually with another guest. So keep your eyes out on Instagram for when we announce that next week. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.